Looks like it is 4:32, and at this time we will call the meeting of the King City Commission to order. And with that, Mayor Pro Tem, would you please bring the message?
Well, President, Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you so much for all that you do for us, Father. Just continue to have a hedge of protection around the men and women that work here at the City of King, and also the citizens. Father, send us some much needed moisture. Father, be with us as we make decisions for the future of our city tonight, and help us when we mess up. In Christ's name, I pray.
Amen.
Pledge with me, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That takes us to the approval of the minutes of the meeting of April 18th, 2022.
If there are no other changes, I move we approve.
Second. I have a motion second to approve as written. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Item number 5, public comments from interested citizens. Trish.
Nobody has signed in there.
All right, thank you. Takes us to item number 6. Consider and take appropriate action on second and final reading of resolution number 05-2022, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Kenyon approving funding to the Kenyon Chamber of Commerce by the Kenyon Economic Development Corporation supporting the annual Independence Day celebration. Helen?
Thank you, Mayor. As you said, this is the second and final reading. We have done this partnership with the Chamber for the 4th of July for many years, and hopefully they get to have it if we have some rain. So anyway, we will do this. They are going to have a concert and fair on the square and a parade. So anyway, brings about 30,000 to 40,000 people meeting that day.
All right. With that, any other questions for Evelyn? Entertain the motion.
I move that we adopt resolution number 05-2022 as presented.
Second.
All right. All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Okay. Next item, item number 7, preliminary discussion of fiscal year 2022-2023, estimate of taxable value provided by Pratt, and estimate of property tax revenue at current tax rates. Joe?
Thank you. So last Monday we got our estimate for property values for 22-23 tax year. We'll begin using preliminarily with our budgeting. Just want to reiterate, this is an estimate, and we are still at the very beginnings of our budget process. Departments are working now on putting their expenses into the budget, and we'll be working with those over the next few weeks, meeting with those departments and determining what we need on the expense side. But we did want to go ahead and bring this to you just so you can be digesting it and kind of understand what's going on. I gave you a schedule in your packet that starts with the taxable value that we ended up with for 2021 and shows how we get to what the estimated tax value is for 2022. So we started at $902 million in 2021. We've had an estimated $30 million added in new taxable property, and then an estimated increase in existing property of $92 million out of 91. So that takes us to $1,025 million for total taxable value. That's overall, it's a 13.64% increase in total taxable value. The increase in existing taxable value is a little over 10%. Keep in mind also, we'll have the tax increment reinvestment zone this year. So in that $1.025 billion, there's actually a little over $1 million that can only be used for the tax increment reinvestment zone. And that's $1.1 million. That's the increase in the taxable property in that zone between the base year and the current year. So that started at $19.6 million, and they have an estimated increase of that property of $20,750,000. So that leaves us with what's taxable value for our M&O and for debt service about $1.023 billion, and that's 13.5% increase over last year. If we applied our current tax rate to that, and again I want to reiterate, we don't even know that we can do that. We haven't calculated our new revenue rate or our voter approval rate. Although I can say those will be lower than they were last year, those calculated rates, just because of the increase in the valuation. But if we were able to apply that same rate to this estimated valuation, that would result in an increase dollars total of $426,000. If we just kept them the same M&O rate, we kept that at the 38459, that would be about 11.9% increase in tax revenue if we applied that same rate to this valuation. In their notice, Pratt also provides us with the average taxable value. So last year, 21-22, that was $191,185. So it's just an average homestead. This estimated increase would raise that to $209,100. So the tax on that, if we apply our current rate, that would be an increase of $76.35 on that average homestead, and that's 9.3% of the increase. So again, this is just all preliminarily, just what we're estimating. I'm not saying this is what we're going to do. We're just saying this is what it would look like if we were applying that same rate that we currently have to this estimated valuation. Joe, if you want to add anything.
Senior tax freeze is the outlier on this. If we had 100 of those, that would impact this greatly. So we don't know until we get that. I have some formulas created that Joel assists me with, as well as Bo, to try to get to these projections of what we think these are, and those are based on extrapolated values, basically over time. And so we've looked at those over the last 2 years to help come up with that number as a projection. Obviously, it could be off. This is our best guess.
That's what we've used, is that template that we've developed. That's what we've used for this dollar increase in tax revenue. But that is, you don't know how many new people are coming on that are over 65. You don't know how many people have passed that are over 65. So that's a constantly changing.
Like Joel said, it's a little too early, so we're still going through the needs of the departments. We're in the trenches of that right now to look at that. The only ones that I know that are on the surface today are 2 firemen, which we approved to go into the budget. That would impact the taxes, as well as a little increase in their overtime. I think that's it at this current time of what the commission is obligated to us for the future. I can't think of any others that are related right now, but obviously we're still going through that on all the budgets. We can't answer that question yet.
We are discussing with departments the reality of inflation. That's going to be something we have to take into consideration.
We're actively talking to that. Director Reese and I have talked about it extensively. Public Works is being affected significantly with dumpsters and poly cars, as well as advanced meter infrastructure, PVC, and concrete. It's across the board. So Finance has directed them to really look into those. And fuel costs, I forgot to say fuel costs. So I had a few commissioners reach out. This came out last week ago today, and I had a few commissioners reach out, wanted us to at least just put this out there yet. From our perspective as staff, it's really early. on this, but we wanted you to be aware of this. Mr. Burns and I did meet with Jeffrey Daly today to talk about that. Statewide, this is a trend, not just in our counties, Potter and Randall, it's statewide. And just as a recap, appraisals have a federal mandate of how they're to be done over time. So, not much that the appraisal district can do in those changes. And they said they've actually been underestimating. He told me they actually have been lower on the estimates and actually, what do you say,
They're held accountable. The state comes in and audits that and reviews that.
for the ISDs.
Yes. So, and they have to be,
They're supposed to have two clean within 5%.
yes.
And so they got hit last year or the year before, didn't have a clean one because
They were at 94%.
94%, so they got dinged for that. And then they got a clean one this year, and they'll probably get dinged again. They have to have 2 consecutive years. They get grace if they get dinged for a year, but they have to have consecutive years to get grace back.
And they have to project. The state comes behind them and actually sees what happened. So the state could be more accurate.
And y'all can all understand, that's all for ISD funding, because the state gives so much on the ISD funding versus the property tax, so that's why the state comes in behind them to see what allocations needed from the legislature for the school district systems. So they do, that's kind of like their audit to help make cuts.
If you got your tax notice last week, this isn't inconsistent. The Waste Management was right at 10% flat increase, and this was showing 10.3% increase. Probably pretty well citywide.
So Joel, you saying if we got more than that, we need to holler at Brad?
Jeffrey told us today
Protest process.
that this estimate is very conservative that we received. He indicated to John and I both that it was a very conservative estimate.
So they're factoring in the fact that some of these will be adjusted later.
In the upward motion. And an increase, not a decrease.
So does it look like, I mean, and obviously you can't, you kind of can project that a little bit based on some of the information I have. But that 9% increase will be adjusted some for the tax freeze. But does it look like it could possibly be so much that it would put us above that 3%, force us to lower based on?
I'll say all of the rates that are calculated on our tax worksheet will come out lower than what they were last year. The no new revenue rate will be lower than last year's no new revenue rate, and the voter approval rate will be lower than.
By how much? Well,
I'm not gonna estimate.
It's too hard to tell. They expect lots of arbitration on this.
which may not necessarily hurt us this year, but could hurt us in future years.
Well,
It continually goes
we've
down.
moved the budget timeline back to not be restricted by the 3.5%. So we can still go above the 3.5 on the timeline we have.
And remember, we can be above that no new revenue rate.
And not trigger an automatic.
Nothing happened, but we could be petitioned for an election.
Right. This is the minimis. The de minimis rate is a generation of $500,000 in new taxes. And so that's the rate we don't need to ever go above. Because then it's an automatic election. If you go between the 3.5%, as you mentioned, Commissioner Jones, at that rate, it has to be a petition by the citizens, like it used to be in the old one.
So we had to build in that 45 extra days so that if someone did petition, we would have that time in the
Right. Or have to go to elections, yeah.
Any questions?
Any other questions for Joel? Well, thank you, and do appreciate y'all getting the information out in front of us. Okay, item number 8, consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 07-2022, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Canyon, Texas, agreement with Panhandle Regional Planning Commission for application assistance for 2022 TXCDBG Downtown Revitalization Program and associated administration consideration if funded. John?
This is the third year in a row we've come to you with this. You think back 2 years ago, we were trying to do 2 alleys. You know, we wanted the east and the west alleys in the square to be redeveloped, put utilities in the ground, make those concrete, turn those into a really nice alley, similar to what you see behind the shops on Fifth, which doesn't even feel like an alley anymore now that it's a parking lot, but it would be similar to that. We did not get that grant, and last year the grant came back and the grant was for less. We couldn't receive as many funds the same amount of funds for that, so we cut that back to 1 alley, and we cut that back to the east side alley, and we did not receive that grant. We are in the smaller pool as a Main Street city. There are fewer cities that are in the pool that we're in. But again, due to the fact that our community is thriving, we don't score as well in this particular grant.
Socioeconomic.
There are points that we don't receive, and that's okay with me personally. I'm glad that our community is thriving and we don't receive those points. However, that queue starts to get cleaned up. You know, there are cities that got it 2 years ago and cities that got it last year. So we're hoping that queue, that pool gets smaller, and there'll be fewer people applying. So we want to apply for that again, and we always partner with PRPC, and Paige is here. They help us out, that they administer that grant. They know the ins and the outs of that grant. And so this agreement here just enables us to say, have you all confirm that you want us to move forward with this grant, and that it's all right that we contract with PRPC to manage that grant. So that's the first phase of these 2 memos that we're talking about. Paige, is there anything else you wanted to add on that? Or?
I guess the only addition would be that the application phase is at no cost to the City of Canyon. So there would be a Part 2 amendment should the City of Canyon be funded that the city could enter into for project management services of that funded project.
Questions?
The project is in our CIP as well.
All right, any other discussion or motion to go into the grant?
I move that we adopt resolution number 07-2022.
We have a motion and second to adopt resolution number 07-2022. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes. All right, thanks, John.
Those applications are due
July 8th.
July 8th.
All right, item number 9 is consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 08-2022, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Canyon, Texas, approving proposal to proceed for engineering services for application to the 2022 TXCDBG Downtown Revitalization Program and associated engineering consideration and funding.
Okay, once again, the second part of this, we have to contract with an engineering firm to assist us through this project. And like PRPC, that firm will do some early work to prepare for the grant, and will not be compensated for that at that point in time. Should we receive the grant, then they would move forward and carry out the project, and that's where they would receive their compensation by doing the grant. In my memo, I mentioned that those were due Thursday at 4:30. We received 2 of those. We received a submittal from Brent Engineering, as it stated on the information, and from Park Hill. Staff was in and out, so we did our scoring this morning. I took both books and scoring sheets provided by Paige from PRPC, a very standard scoring sheet. Took them around to everyone and asked them to score those. We have scored these 2 groups. 2 years ago there were 3. Last year there were 2. So we've seen these before. So everyone brought in their scoring sheet to me. There was no talking, confirming of that. We didn't meet. They just brought it up and gave me the books back and gave me the scores. There's a spreadsheet on at your seat which shows you that I then totaled up those scores, and both groups scored 461, which meant there was a tie. I contacted Paige, and there did not appear to be anything in any code or rule that stated that there was a procedure to break that tie. Arbitrarily, sometimes you throw out a high and a low on everything, which only left us with 3. Added those up, and they were identical scores once again. When I took the highs and the lows out, Joe refused to allow me to flip a coin at that point in time. So talking with Paige and talking with Joe, we brought those forward to you to jump in and make a decision on which one of these 2 firms that you would like Joe to move forward with to negotiate a contract and move forward with. So
No pressure.
we're open to you all, and we'd be happy to discuss whatever you'd like us to discuss, but we put them all back in y'all's court in this case.
Can you all throw out maybe some of the pros and cons for each of the engineering firms? Are you able to do that?
The way we looked at that was we had, there were 5 people that scored. We had 3 with one group with the first higher scores and 2 with higher scores on the other 2. So we are split down the middle.
Ironically.
Have we done any work with Park Hill in the past?
Long time.
It's been over 20 years.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no one's in that office that's been part of that. The last time we had, it was 90s, mid to late 90s. I think they were involved in the utility contractors, or what is it, Dan?
Early on, UCA.
UCA.
Utility contractors.
I think it's Chuck. They were the engineer on that, and I think we're let go from that project. That was the fourth main project, I believe.
But ancient history.
Yeah, that was over 20 plus years ago, so nobody's in that office from there on that. I'm probably the most adept at both firms, being that I came from the city that was a Parksville, and I've worked with Grant. Both of them can do the job.
All right, many are comfortable with Grant. Why don't you say we're going comfortable with?
Staff will support that decision. Commissioner Ray, if you choose to do it. We're good with either.
Almost sounded like a motion.
I don't know if I can make one, if you feel better.
Well, you're good for me.
I move that we adopt resolution number 08-2022, a resolution selecting Grant Engineering to provide engineering services for the City of Canyon's participation in the Main Street program. And hereby authorize the mayor and the city manager to execute any and all documents to effectuate said engineering services contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, selecting Grant to provide the engineering services, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes 4-1.
Paige, does that take care of everything we need to do for you
Yes, sir.
tonight?
Yes.
You don't need to read anything or do a song and dance or anything else? Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, That will take us to executive session. But as we go into that, I think one of the things we've been talking about development here that over at anyway, we've got a couple of folks. Dustin with GDI is here, and Conley, you'll want to say anything as well, at this time, we will go into executive session pursuant to 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072 for deliberation regarding real property, and 551.087 deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. And at this time, it is 4:58. We will retire into exec session, and then we will come back out to consider any appropriate actions.
And Mayor, I would like to say for those watching on YouTube that we're going to shut the stream off since it could be a while. And then when you come back in, we'll start it back up, so there'll be a two-part YouTube for tonight's live stream of the meeting, just so they know.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Unless you're